Hey, welcome to another episode of Music Tips and Reviews with JG. Appreciate y'all for watching. This is a special show. We have a guest, rap artist extraordinaire, and also the feature on his new single, Journal 83, Wes Lee The Wordsmith. So appreciate y'all for coming out here, coming up here, taking time to do this conversation. And so we're gonna start with you, King Scythe. Where you from? Your background.
Yeah, so they call me King Scythe, aka the Grim Reaper, and I am born in Norfolk, Virginia, and I was pretty much raised in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay, cool.
Right now, I'm based in Dallas, though, but basically where I'm from, I would
Uh,
say Jax.
okay, cool. And also you, Wesley. Where you from?
So I was born in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay,
Spent a lot of my younger years in Atlanta, Georgia, and then spent a lot of my adult life in Savannah. And
cool,
now I am based out of South Florida.
cool. And yeah, it's always great to network with you all. Uh, how did y'all meet? How did y'all two meet? Let me know how y'all meet. Anyone can start.
Yeah, so we actually met in Word is where we met. So we met in college, short, and
Okay.
in a performing arts organization called Word. They focus like primarily in like poetry. Uh,
Okay.
like there we, I think in like Wesley and then like on there became more of like a rap component. So like
Okay.
I was doing like the 80s and 90s kind of like hip hop show, and then I
Hmm.
was kind of like around the group,
Hmm.
and slowly over time kind of like got integrated with the group, and me and Wesley been tight since.
Cool. So y'all found like a connection, things relatable, that y'all was, connected. And is this the only song y'all worked on, or y'all had any other collaborations?
So this is the first released collaboration that we've done,
Okay.
as far as with both of our vocals on a record together.
Okay.
But we've worked together kind of behind the scenes as like I recorded and engineered a lot of songs that Scythe has, both released and unreleased.
Okay.
And we have a lot of conversations just about the business aspect of music, and
Okay.
even sometimes with just like our corporate careers, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's my brother. There's times where we just gotta sometimes get on the phone and just like talk about what's next,
Yeah.
strategizing the next move with the passions, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very important too. Learning the business, because you can have the creativity, you can have the talent, but if you don't have that music business, how to market, how to distribute
Hmm.
your music, that's very important. And that's good that y'all collaborate in that area as well, because a lot of people out here, they get over, y'all know how the music industry is, especially the major music industry. And how do y'all feel about today's music industry, as far as just in general?
I guess I'll take that one first. So I would
Okay.
say commercially, the industry is awesome. Like commercially for artists, like
Yeah.
now is the best time if you want to be an artist. It's the
Hmm.
best time to be an artist.
Yeah.
From like a cultural standpoint, I think that there's a bit of a decline,
Hmm.
and that kind of has its ebbs and flows for like all popular charts throughout music, but in general, like when I speak to like my genre and at the heart of what I love, hip hop, I kind of
Yeah.
feel like it's at a bit of like a cultural decline because of how commercial the game has become. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I feel like, and I think we kind of getting away from it, but it's like a slow change, as far as more about talent than, TikTok followers or
Mhm.
YouTube followers. How y'all feel about that? Do you
I
think it's
wanted to
still,
No,
what do
I'm
you say?
sorry, brother. I'm sorry, brother. I didn't
Oh,
mean to cut you off.
you can say what you about to
I
say.
wanted to kind of touch base on the hip hop, the state of the hip
Okay.
hop
Okay.
industry or music industry overall, because I am pretty heavily integrated as an independent artist and music professional.
Yeah.
I mean, like I got my whole production company and team, and we throw listening parties, and we done through concerts, and
Mhm.
been to different major music events and so on. And we get to brush shoulders with some label executives. They've been trying to sign some of us, and
Yeah.
all types of different deal combos, right? And
Cool.
what I could tell you right now is the biggest catalyst to
Yeah.
this decline in the music industry as it is today is
Yeah.
because of how easy it is to be an artist, like King
Mhm.
Scythe
Yeah.
was saying.
Yeah. You're right
It's
about that.
very easy to be an artist. But
Yeah.
the problem is, so many artists do not understand the game that they
Hmm.
literally are just like ruining the chance for other people. It's almost like
Yeah.
a whole lot of folks being able to get a raffle ticket into the
Mhm.
Yeah.
raffle, and
Yeah.
now it
You hit it.
decreases
You
the
hit it. You hit
probability of
it.
somebody winning,
Yeah.
right?
You hit it on
Yeah.
the head right there. I would say like it's easy to get in, it's
Yeah.
hard to maintain. You know.
Yeah.
It's easy to participate. Not even
Yeah.
to get in, it's easy to participate because
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so many artists out here with music. I can't tell you how many people I done come across that have been they dropped a whole album,
Yeah.
didn't have licenses to use none of the beats.
Uh-huh.
They just pulled it off YouTube and because it said free
Yeah.
YouTube beat. But it's
Yeah.
free for non-profit use. It does
Mhm.
not mean you can drop it without giving writers or composers credit
Yeah.
to the producer that used they
Listen.
gave you
Yeah.
the beat.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
understanding the difference between like an exclusive and a lease
Man,
or
leave.
unlimited lease or a premium lease,
Hmm.
understanding what it means to have the trackouts, knowing the difference between publishing, writing, what is a ghostwriter, what is this, what is that. So a lot of
Mechanical
people is out
royalties
here,
versus just your regular
Yeah.
neighbor.
you
Yeah.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Yeah.
it's and then understanding your brand too, and
Yeah.
understanding that music is like a fraction of
Yeah.
what your brand is supposed to be. And
Yeah.
that's why a lot of artists in the mainstream are like thriving, whether they're talented or not,
Yeah.
because people fall in love with the brand. They
Yeah.
fall in love with the aesthetic. So you can come and drop some trash, but I
Yeah.
love how you look. I
Yeah.
love how you feel. That's why they love Sexy Red. That's why they
Yeah.
love Ice Spice because anybody can dress up
Yeah.
like Ice Spice or Sexy Red, and you know that's who they are.
Yeah. You're right about
You know that's who
that.
they are. But as an
Yeah.
independent artist, a lot of us don't have a brand.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
And
yeah.
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And as far as independent and major, how do y'all feel about as far as King Sites? Are you are you considering staying independent, or if a major contract came that was how are you considering that in the future?
For me, I would say I've been wanting to be independent since day one.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
me, I guess you could say kind of like my bias is, growing up, I was one of those quote unquote hip hop heads that were really into like the underground, aspect of
Okay.
hip hop. And so
Okay.
when you get exposed to those kind of artists, and those are like your first exposure to what the
Yeah.
music industry is, you have a different viewpoint than some other people, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
ultimately you say, well, if all like for various reasons, a
Hmm.
lot of these people are underground, it's because of the way the label set it up, or it's because that artist didn't know how to work with the label, or
Yeah.
or in general, you see a
Yeah.
lot of these people would have functioned better if they would have been creatively independent.
Yes.
You know,
Uh-huh.
there are
Yeah.
certain people who, like I would say, if you want to just rap and that's all you want to do,
Yeah.
or if you want to just make music and go
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
or really just be on the tour bus, really. If
Yeah.
all you want to do is make music, then and that's really all you care about, then sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
be a major label artist. But if you
Yeah.
care about, actually like the
The
ownership,
art. Yeah.
or
Ownership. Yeah.
and if you care about having like the I want to say like the leverage of being able to control your intellectual property. And that intellectual property isn't just like the music itself, it's you as a brand, because as a major label artist, you
Yeah.
have more, liability to other people who depend on you.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you don't as an independent, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you owe them
And that,
labor.
yeah, and that advance is like a loan. You
Mhm.
It's
gotta pay
exactly
it.
It's a
Yeah.
loan,
it's
yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah. And
It's
West.
like a student loan.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm still paying now. Student loan. And West, going back to what you was talking about, as far as these artists, anybody can be Ice Spice, anybody can be Sexy Red. How do you feel about the term when they said they are plants, you know, in the industry? What do y'all
I
feel?
think, man, I think that that's just something that people be stirring up as
Yeah,
some
yeah,
hating.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, what are they calling an industry plant? Basically, it's somebody that has resources to be owned in the game.
yes,
And to be
exactly.
honest, that is the difference between the success in a major artist versus an independent. And that is another component of what I was saying earlier about the brand, right? So
Mhm.
Yeah,
Scythe kind of tapped in with talking about having intellectual like leverage. I mean leverage
yeah,
over the intellectual property, right?
yeah.
Ownership of your masters. But here's the
Uh huh.
problem with that. If you haven't built a successful brand because it costs resources to build a
No
brand,
one's gonna
your
want to
your
use
Yeah,
intellectual property has no value.
value.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it has
Brand,
no value. You have
Uh,
no
cause,
it
leverage.
was
cause
Lupe,
that's
right? It
yeah,
was Lupe. I remember it was a. I was watching a clip from Lupe, and he was talking about
hmm,
Leor Cohen, who was
Yep,
one of
yep.
the big record executives, and he was saying like he wanted his masters. He didn't really
yeah,
know or understood the implications of why you should own them or even like have them. He's like, "What do you
yeah,
want me to do? Like put them in a suitcase and like ship them to you?" And he was
yeah,
like, "Oh, you evil son of a!" And he was like, "But
yeah,
no." He was like, later he understood what he's saying. Like, hey, this is what we do. We have like the ability to sync licensing and sell the
mm,
movies.
mm,
We have more resources and ability to kind of like do that than you.
yeah,
Yeah.
So if you have no idea what you want to do with that, then
yeah,
it's by
yeah,
all intents and purposes it's useless.
yeah,
But piggybacking on the idea of like an industry plan, another thing I want to say is outside of just the idea of hating, I don't think people really understood like when we were talking earlier
yeah,
about how it's a better time to be like an artist now than it was then. Back then, right, you had A&Rs. These people were responsible for going to look for talent and going in bars, going in places where the artists were, and they would find talent and they would sign it.
yeah,
Functionally, what we call industry plants were what artists were back then.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Like whether they were talented or not, someone found someone and they put millions of dollars, which is basically a bet on this
Yeah,
yeah,
art, on whether
yeah,
they would be
yeah,
successful or not.
that's
yeah,
And
it.
yeah, yeah. Some
that
of them made it up to the top, and some of them
Yeah.
over the
Based
time.
and,
on how
Yeah,
and they're doing
infectious
the
their brand was.
and they're
yeah,
doing the same type of bet with these industry plants, except they're doing them based on Instagram followers, on
yeah,
TikTok followers, on
yeah,
how many frames you have, on how many people
It's
they.
about your brand. They're
yeah.
they're
Mhm,
Brian,
wanting
it's
to come with your pre-established brand. How
mhm,
yeah,
big were you able to make yourself? How many fans were you able to garner by being who
yeah,
you are? And
yeah,
that earned you in the
yeah,
like creative freedom, even when you
yeah,
get signed.
yeah,
I know, I want to give it back to you so you can ask the next question, but I do want to wrap that thought up with this, and
yeah,
that is like a lot of independent artists. Again, they don't know how to make money off of their brand. They
mhm.
don't know how to establish a brand. They say they don't want to sign a deal, right?
yeah,
But there's many deals, professional deals that you
yeah.
can sign to get resources
Distribution
that do
deals.
not
Distribution.
compromise your ownership.
Oh
It
yeah,
allows for you to truly leverage
Mhm,
pieces of your catalog as an investable asset. So you
mhm,
have admin deals, you have pub deals,
mhm,
where people are getting a piece of it to help you collect your money
oh
on
mhm,
yeah,
your music. You have distribution deals where you
yeah,
get exclusive distro and they in turn force you through their algorithm, or they'll put
yeah,
marketing dollars behind you for a temporary
yeah,
limited contract
yeah,
for 30% of your royalties that you make off of that song,
mhm,
which
yeah,
essentially is what Spotify discovery mode is kind of emulating now, right? Because
yeah,
now if your song reaches a certain amount of numbers on the platform, they'll
yeah,
offer you discovery mode at the top of the month. You submit it for that. They say, hey, we want 30% of your royalties, but we're about to put you as a favorable song in our algorithm for
yeah,
this cycle. That's
yeah,
that's what a distribution deal kind of is if you
yeah,
negotiate your terms right. And
yeah,
that's what you want to do. If your
yeah.
catalog is not making any money, it
Mm-hmm.
has no value.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
sometimes you have to allow room to negotiate with the professionals in the industry. You got
yeah,
to know what you want and have your knowledge about you.
yeah,
And you got to take that deal, my boy, even if you giving them a one song. You
yeah,
might sell them one song out of your
yeah,
catalog and let them work.
yeah.
but know
And
what your leverage is.
yeah, and it
Like,
goes back. It goes back to resources too.
Hmm.
You have to have the resources to brand yourself. You think about Jay-Z. He can hop on the song and have the worstest the worstest bars on the song, and because he's Jay Z, everybody's gonna say, "Oh, he had the dopest,"
Because of the
and so
brand.
because of the
Yeah.
brand. So,
Yeah.
so we're gonna rewind it back. We're gonna rewind it back to the beginning. How did y'all get into music, or even rap music, especially?
I'm gonna let
Can you
Wesley
say?
go first.
So me personally, I got introduced to poetry as a coping mechanism. It was through school. I was in like elementary school, and there was like a poetry lesson on Dr. Seuss, and
Oh yeah.
we could do our little quote responses and stuff like that. And so my little sister had passed away when I was coming up. And
Okay.
I struggled to deal with that. You know what I mean? I'm struggling. I can't get over it. I'm still trying to figure out who I am, let
Yeah.
alone understanding my emotions, right?
Yeah.
So I turned to poetry and going to the counselor a lot. And
Yeah.
that was my introduction into it. I had a
Yeah.
Walkman and I had my
Yeah.
pop's little crate of CDs. Back in the day they had the little small milk crates with the
Yeah.
CDs in it.
Yeah.
And I remember I discovered that Doggy Style by Snoop Dogg, and the
Oh
cover
yeah.
alone. The cover alone was enough to fascinate my little immature mind, right? I'm
So
like,
you was
hey,
in
I'm spinning that.
So you was in elementary school around the same time I was, cause I remember in '94, Gin and
Yeah.
Juice was that song.
Bro, so
Yeah,
I had that going on. Eminem,
yeah,
his early tapes, and also because of what he was rapping about back then, with
yeah,
When I'm Gone,
yeah.
Haley, all of
Oh yeah,
that stuff. It was like real deep cuts that also helped me cope. So I
yeah,
started kind of like flirting with marrying the two worlds together.
yeah.
And when I got into college, I started realizing I could freestyle real good off the dome. People
Cool,
started hyping me up and encouraging me, like, bro, you need to start making some records. They start
cool.
hearing my poems and my little flow. They like,
Yeah,
hey, if you're writing poems like this, bro, imagine if you wrote stuff and put it on a beat. You
yeah,
freestyling like this, imagine if you made a song. And
yeah.
so I started discovering my identity as the wordsmith, and I started to bring that poetry as the
Mm.
forward component in the music that I created.
Yeah, and that's crazy. I kind of started the same way when I started songwriting. I didn't know I had that skill when I was younger, and then when I got older. But like you said, in elementary school, I was into poetry as well. I remember, entering poetry contests, and that's how things, flourish, and your skills grow as you stay. And that consistency is the key. You have these talents, you have these skills, and it's good that the things that happened to you in the past, you challenge it into a positive thing, because a lot of people, they don't channel it into a positive thing. So, and King Sykes, how did you get into
Yeah,
rap music?
so for me, I started out pretty much as a nerd. And I mean that, right? Like, I was one of those people who was like, really uber into science and all those other fun stuff. So whatever I found a subject or something that was I was interested in. I really latched onto that. And this was
Yeah.
always the one that stuck to me. My stepdad. I have a song about him called Fathers. Basically, I
Okay.
pretty much grew up. I have both dads in my life, but like
Okay.
I largely like grew up with him and my mom's, right?
Yeah.
And I listened to like Cool Mo D, Busy B,
Mm.
Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. So I listened to the old stuff.
And I
So I
can hear that. I can hear that in your style, your rhythm. Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
started out with like the old like originators of hip hop.
Mm.
And so like when I was with my stepdad, he gave me, like the old stuff. He would play CDs and music. He would play the clean version. When I was with my dad, I would spend time with him.
Yeah.
He would play
Yeah.
the gritty stuff. He would play the Wu Tang. He would play the Snoop Dogg. He would play all these other artists. And as I got like older, I found myself wanting to like start writing. So I had me a little journal, and I would like just like write raps in it, just like constantly. Every period in middle school, I was
Hmm.
writing. I was in the back writing. I remember it was really bad.
Yeah.
I was in middle school, and like my GPA was so bad. The guy was like, "Do you want to be here?"
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just writing. That was
Cool.
pretty much like that was what I was really, really heavily like interested in. And so like
Yeah. Yeah.
ever since then, like people, knew me as the guy who was just like really, really great at
Cool.
rapping, and it was something that stuck. So it's a bit of a simpler thing, but I pretty much started out as a nerd and someone who loved rap for the sake of rap. I loved
Yeah.
hip hop for the sake of
Yeah.
hip hop, and then my love kind of like deepened with like my age and experience with
Yeah.
hip hop.
Yeah, and it's crazy that us as creatives, we always looked at it as kind of weird in a way, but we just love what we do, and it's kind of a way to for us to express our way. I mean, express ourselves, through life, and have anybody told you, have you ever felt that way that you're like an outsider? When you create, being a creative.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times that I've been looked at as crazy, not because people look at me and think, "Oh, this guy is weird," but
Yeah, not
because it's
weird,
like
but yeah,
I,
yeah,
it's because like all I want to do a lot of the time is rap. Like anybody that's been around me, King Scythe can vouch for it. I
Mhm.
mean, no matter where I'm at, bro, we freestyling. I don't care if
yeah,
your mama is in the car. I don't care if you got somewhere to go. We not
First
breaking
thing
the
you
hot
when
box.
you
We
get
not
in a
leaving the
session
open
with
mic.
when you
yeah,
get in a session with Wes, when you come for a recording session, the first thing you do is
yeah,
sit down and y'all put on some beats and freestyle. That's what you do.
yeah. I will put you on the spot, but I ain't gonna do
Hey man,
it.
look, I'm ready for everything.
No,
But
I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna
look,
do that. But
I'm like that.
yeah. So what's y'all creative process like when y'all create music? I start with King Size. What's your process when you creating music? Your main process.
Yeah. So for me, it's kind of evolved over the years. It used to be just straight a cappella and then finding something that fits. But as I've, like grown, what I prefer to really do is like I find like just really interesting beats and I say, what does this make me feel? That's the first thing I do every time I go on the internet. And if you're one of those producers that's out there and you're like, oh man, I only have like 5 subscribers on my YouTube and
Mm-hmm.
no one's listening to these beats, I am that guy. So make sure you have good beats.
I'm gonna have to send you some stuff too. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. So like
yeah,
I'll go in and like I try to find something, that
yeah,
speaks to me. So I can have like a personal relationship,
mm,
with that producer, something more personable. And I
mm,
find like that approach helps my creative process too and
mm-hmm.
allows me to like really like hone and craft my sound. So I'll take something and I say, what does this make me feel? And that's like the very first thing. Uh, do I like it? What does it make me feel? Save it for
Yeah,
later, or do I feel like writing to it now?
yeah,
And then I'll go throughout my day, and I'll just have thoughts and ideas. I'll write 3 lines here,
mm,
4 lines there, and then sometimes I say I have an hour, I have 30 minutes, I have nothing else I'm doing. I'm going to
mm,
pick one of these beats. Let's see how far I can go, and
mm.
then I just rinse and repeat. And next thing you know, I might have like a whole album within like the span of a month, and I'm writing like 30 songs at a time.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, yeah,
Facts.
and
I've seen it
yeah,
in real life before.
wow, yeah, yeah,
You said,
yeah.
you said,
And that's the important thing as an artist, staying consistent. When you have those moments where, you feel like things are idle, just like you said, take out that pen and just keep writing because that next rhyme might be your, that one hit, and so
That's it. And hey,
that punch,
send me
that one
beats too,
line
my
is the
brother. Look,
yeah,
cause
the one
cause
line, yeah, one line,
look,
yeah.
send me beats too, my brother, if you
Okay, I
making
got you,
beats.
I
Because
got
what I'll tell you about my creative process is I kind of like just develop a repository of beats, right? So
you,
as
yeah,
King Scythe said, obviously freestyling is like the first step of
yeah,
me even testing if I like a beat. How well did I just freestyle off the dome on this beat? Because that
I
means
got you,
that I was compelled to flow crazy on it just
yeah,
by nature, right? So
yeah,
then I'll just like save it, add it to a little playlist, and I'll build up a playlist of certain vibes. And what
yeah,
I'll do is throughout my regular day, sometimes it gets crazy because I'll listen to them for 30 days and 30 nights, only that playlist of beats that I have put together.
got
And
you,
I will just be driving to work and I'll be freestyling to it. I'll be giving my son a bath. I'll be freestyling to the playlist. I'll go to sleep to it. I work out
Yeah.
to it. And then
Uh,
if I say something that I think is dope off the dome, I'll write that down.
yeah.
And then I just kind of keep that going. And every day I wake up, I'll do it over again. So there will be times where I have 6 or 7 different full songs written to the same beat.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes time to like record, what I'll
Mm.
do is I'll start like kind of Frankensteining the best
Yeah.
parts from each thing
Cool.
to match a certain theme and feel like, okay, this is the most potent. Oh, this stanza was kind of weak, so let me take this from over here to make it stronger so that the energy of the song is consistent.
Oh, cool. So, do y'all have y'all own setup, or do y'all have a certain studio y'all go to when y'all create?
I do a little bit of both.
Okay.
He has a more developed setup than I do.
Okay.
Yes,
Cool.
Yeah,
that
with
is
this right there.
Yeah.
that is the guy right there. Yeah, he
Oh,
has a
you got that eyeball too. I got one in the back.
Yes, sir. I got
Eyeball.
two
Yeah.
of them. I got my
Yeah.
dynamic mic and my condenser mic, my
Yeah.
Apollo twin. I'm
Man.
loaded.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
yeah. I got a mattress in the back in the closet. I got
Nothing
like
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
I got
Yeah.
3 or 4 mics with an
Yeah.
isolation shield, and
Cool.
I got a preamp, that kind of stuff, and I just set it up, and then I
Yeah.
might send it to Wes, or sometimes I say I really need the feel of a studio. I go
Cool.
to a studio,
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
both.
Yeah. And as far as rhymes, y'all you both say y'all write down y'all rhymes and stuff like that. Uh how do you feel about, people criticize Drake, they criticize Cardi B as far as ghostwriters. How do y'all feel about ghostwriters in rap?
I'll take this one. So for me, right, I say if you have a ghostwriter, there's nothing wrong with you having a ghostwriter in terms of being an artist. Now, if you want to ever be considered a lyricist, or you want to be considered in terms of like from a craft perspective, in the GOAT level conversations as the top person in your craft, I
Mm,
don't think it's fair to compare you to any other artist. That's
mm,
the distinction in the problem I have when we talk about people who have ghostwriters. And I think with Cardi B, she said she went to like a writing camp. So she may or may not have had ghostwriters. She may have just been like developing her craft, right?
yeah.
You
Probably
got,
just getting beats and stuff. Yeah.
but then you got like other people who like they don't have ghostwriters. They just openly have writers. Like a
Mm,
lot of those people are still like, some of like the best producers of all time. You talk about like your Kanye or your Dr. Dre. They
yeah.
don't have ghostwriters. They got actual writers. They got people who've written actual songs for them, you
Yeah.
know. And we still consider them great for their other talents, and we still consider them phenomenal artists. But I would not put Dr. Dre or Kanye as a like in a best lyricist
Mm,
conversation, simply
gotcha.
for the fact that you press the buttons on the cheat code, my guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a slightly different perspective on ghostwriting, right?
Mhm.
Because the thing about a ghostwriter is you don't know who has them. Because the
Mhm.
difference between a ghostwriter and a
Yeah,
contributing writer on a record is the
correct.
credit, right?
Yep.
A ghostwriter, I pay you under the table for whatever you
Mhm.
contributed to the song. You get no credit. Your name is not associated with the record, hence the
Yep.
term ghost.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At a certain amount of output,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to be able to maintain as an artist, a brand, a business, right?
Mhm.
You cannot do it well by yourself. It's not possible
Mhm.
because you have to live a certain amount of life or your songs start to get redundant or
Mhm.
monotonous or humdrum or you
Got to
just
take a
don't
break.
feel it. You can't
Yep.
make it right. And
Yeah.
and there's certain times where you can't take a break because you're trying to get out of a deal. You're
Mhm.
Yeah.
trying to pay it back. You're trying to finish this album that's expected of you. Or you're trying to reach a certain financial goal with your music. And the only way that you make money is whether you're constantly performing or you're constantly making something new. And
Yeah.
I think that in this day and age, because of how easy it is to make music, volume is just as important as quality now.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to have quantity of music and
And
quality of
vibe.
music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at how much criticism that Kendrick is receiving in the GOAT conversations in comparison to Drake simply because
Mhm.
he's taken 5 years out of the game in
Mhm.
Yeah.
between certain projects, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Kendrick is a phenomenal talent, Pulitzer
Yeah.
Prize winner, a ton of Grammys, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. But they're saying that he's inferior to Drake because Drake don't take breaks.
Yeah. And
But
that's how.
Drake is only not able to take breaks because of the
Yeah.
machine that he has. And
Yeah.
his money, Kendrick is not touching Drake money
Yeah. Yeah.
because Drake's volume is so high. So his ability to influence the game
Yeah,
is at an all-time high. So
yeah,
I think
Yeah.
that if you just want it for accolades, to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I wrote all of my own stuff," that's
Yeah.
cute. But you
Hmm.
may not ever even be able to be entertained in a GOAT conversation without the support of a team in the
yeah.
studio.
Like I
Yeah.
said, like for business, right? Like from a business perspective, all day, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. I think like from like a cultural and like an artistic like perspective when we talk about like writers in hip hop, like that's my perspective. You know, I don't think Drake could have done the volume he's done without ghostwriters.
Nobody
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
I
Nobody could though. Drake
Yeah.
has 200 plus songs. It's
Yeah.
not
I,
possible. Nobody.
it's
Yeah.
some
And
He.
insane.
even Mickey Fax, you love Mickey
Yeah.
Fax, right? Mickey Fax is a very talented underground
Mhm.
artist, and I've been following him with the whole Pendulum Ink thing. And what I
Yeah.
try to do is tap into all of the organic opportunities to learn from these people unfiltered, right? So
Yeah.
Mickey Fax goes live, and during the Kendrick and Drake beef, he was going live and providing some very insightful perspective. And he
Yeah.
literally said, and I can't quote it because I can't confirm or deny like exactly what's happening. I'm not in every studio session. But Mickey Fax said, dude, everybody has ghostwriters. Everybody. He said, sometimes you go in the studio and you say, hey, I need y'all to send me demos, send me reference tracks because I'm paying
Mm,
$250 an hour in
mm,
studio time. And I might go in there and I might be a bust that day. I might not be
yeah.
able to write nothing, no heat that day.
Yeah.
So you want to make the most out of that $250 an hour studio time. So what you do is you have people send you demos and
Yeah.
then you listen to them and you say, "Ooh, I love that hook," and you literally record that
That hook.
song that somebody sent you, and now that person has become a ghostwriter for you because you're going to pay them or compensate them for the contribution to that intellectual property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he is for efficiency. And this is Mickey Fax. He's a battle rapper, a very skilled MC. I can't take no credit from Mickey Fax on the MCing standpoint. And for that to come out of his mouth, I was like, yeah, bro. I mean, at this
Hmm.
point, my final perspective on ghostwriters is that they're necessary
Yeah.
if you intend to be in this for the long haul.
Yeah. And if you think about his deal with Universal, he has to put out music a certain amount of times, and so he's gonna need that what I say machine behind him to push those songs out. Whether or not he loses the battle with Kendrick or not, he has to push out those songs because he signed to a publishing, Universal. So yeah, that's truth. Uh, how would you describe your artistry? How would you describe your sound? Start with you, King Size.
I always get different things from different people. I always have kind of like went off of other people's interpretation. But if I had to kind of like describe myself, I would say a little bit of like underground experimental is kind of like
Okay.
how I would kind of like describe myself. A mixture of kind of like that old school, kind of like grime with, like a little bit of kind of like experimentation. Cause like a lot of my tracks, you know, one track doesn't sound like the other, which doesn't sound like the other, which doesn't sound like the other, you know.
Hmm. Cool. And who's kind of your main influence, like as far as rappers, MCs?
Mhm.
Who has been your main influence?
Yeah, like
It could be more than one.
yeah, I'm about to say it's
Yeah,
varied throughout the years, but I would say like some of my like bigger influences. You got a guy like I don't know if you ever heard of Pharaoh Monch, but
Pharaoh. Oh yeah, I heard of his name, but I haven't really listened to him like
yeah,
that.
like
Yeah,
from like a
yeah.
technical perspective, I'm like influenced by guys like that or like Immortal Technique. Then you got your Eminems, and then like more recently, I've been influenced by people like Smino and like Saba, and you kind of like No Name, those kind of artists. So like more recently, but like growing up, like really technical rappers like your Slaughterhouses and Eminems, your Tech Nines, yeah,
Okay,
that
cool.
kind of stuff.
And Wes, can you describe your sound, your artistry, Wes?
I would say raw, soulful, and poetic kind of
Mhm.
hip hop. So like you know how you look up type beats or like instrumental mixes or YouTube, all is that soulful, poetic kind of thing with the piano melodies and all the different stuff like that. That's kind
Cool.
of my vibe. Sometimes I get into that lo-fi bag and so on, but I like songs or beats that give me space to talk my talk. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like and that feel good.
Cool. Cool. That's great. And who is your like your main influence? And it can be more than one artist.
Um, to be totally honest, I've made we do this exercise within the team where we make like a family tree of
Okay.
like our artistic influences. So you have like your rapper dad, you know, your mama, your grandmama, your cousins, and all of that
Yeah.
to help you understand your artistic identity, right? It really helps with writer's block and just branding overall to stay on track. So Common is my rap dad.
Oh yeah, I love Common.
Rock,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
feel me? Rock him is my rap granddaddy. You
Yeah.
know, Lauren Hill is my mama. You
Yeah.
know, Mac Miller is my white cousin, once removed.
And I can hear
You
I can hear Rakim in your cadence too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rock. I
Yeah.
love Rakim.
Yeah.
You know, so those are like, you know, at the core, oh, the roots. So I love Black Thought. I
Black
love
Thought is
Q-Tip
another
even.
influence of mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I love Q-Tip. So those are like the general people that make up my core sound.
Cool.
Um, and then as far as somebody more modern, I think one of my earlier influences was probably like Wale, like somebody that was more of like a peer to me, like a brother. So
Okay.
if he was in my family tree, Wale would be like my brother in the family
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah. He's very poetic with his raps, so
Mhm.
I can see the connection. And so we're gonna get into this single, Journal 83, the remix. What was the creative process, and what's the, you know, uh, what was your thoughts when you was thinking about this song and the lyrics?
Yeah.
I'll start with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So the remix was recorded the same day as the original.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Uh,
Wow, that was fast.
yeah. I told you we
Wow,
work fast.
well, that
No.
was fast.
So,
Wow.
you know, I would say, to me, emotionally, it's one of those like really compelling tracks. And, like I feel like a good portion of my catalog kind of like deals with like some of my like, most connecting tracks, kind of like deals with that personal, kind of like emotional touch. So when I was in the space I was in like Journal 83, I kind of had a lot of like conflicting things going on in college and a lot of like doubt, basically doubt in my connection to people, doubt in myself as an individual, doubt in like artistry. And so that kind of like manifested itself into kind of like a healing process by like writing the track, so to speak.
Yeah.
um and so basically what I did was I put that on wax. And then, I was sitting there with Wes, and Wes is like, ain't no way I can't get on this. And so
Hmm.
he started putting some down right then and there, and so did I. And then we pretty much recorded.
Yeah. And Wes, how did you come up with your verse up there? What was your
But
thought process?
this was one of those times that King Scythe mentioned earlier where he like wrote like 2 albums worth of music or something in a very short time. So he's like, "Hey, dude,
Yeah.
I need to book a
Yeah.
studio session and record 20 songs." You know,
Cool.
and
It was 12 songs the legendary recording session was 12 songs.
12 songs in one session, bro. And
Wow.
so,
Wow.
we going through it and I'm hearing him and everything's dope. King Scythe is doing what he's doing. But when that beat came on
Yeah.
and he got on there and I'm listening to it back in the headphones, I'm like, bruh, come on,
Yeah.
bruh.
Yeah.
You gotta let me get
Yeah.
on
Let you
there.
hop on it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sitting on there, I'm freestyling to the beat. He's like, "Oh, you can get on the remix." I'm like, "Dang, I'm
Cool.
not good enough to get on the original." You feel me? But it's cool. They dropped the
Yeah.
remix to Ignition first. No, I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
playing. But
Cool.
yeah. So I was listening to what he was talking about, and it was really like the focus and breathe. You gotta live. It's so
Mhm.
much more that you gotta give.
Mhm.
Losing myself ain't part of the plan, cause my convictions are that I am. Like that's something that resonates with me so heavily because in real life, just being a grown man, and we
Yeah.
was freshly grown men for real at the time. It's like we out there like really learning, corporate jobs, paying bills. I was having a son, you know what I'm saying? And you
Cool.
start losing your own like connection to yourself prior to that, in the midst of that metamorphosis. And
Cool.
so I started thinking about that. I'm like, dang, I'm a dad now. I'm struggling with just like figuring out what's the right version of me to be at what times, right?
Yeah.
Trying to compromise my desires to try to keep everybody else copacetic as the leader of a household.
Yeah.
It was a lot of real heavy thoughts going on, right?
Yeah, I got you.
So that's where I get into that, like visions vivid, colors vibrant, wrote verses on lines you can't even read between. Grass is
Mm.
green and when the farmer plants the seeds. I stayed down, same tree just got some different leaves. How can a child
Yeah.
stay grounded when fathers just up and leave? Eternally elevated up on that evergreen. I just need relief from pain, the struggles, the strife, the hardships in my life. Trying to
Fire.
keep my grip while holding on to all my vice. Never thinking twice. Never did no shrooms, but this my second life. Word two, sticks and stones will break your bones. I pray my words don't ever hurt you. I pray the world don't overwork you. Be a
Yeah.
shepherd in a world full of sheep. The words I speak, they cut so deep, I turn a sheep into a lamb chop. Hey, and I ain't talking food for your digestion, but swallowing your pride might save you a whole lot of time. Wordsmith.
Yeah. Love that.
Like
Yeah.
it's
That's
it's exactly
yeah.
that. It was just
Yeah.
like a culmination of everything that I had going on at
Yeah.
that time. And it's
Yeah.
so funny because we recorded that song years ago, bro. Like you
Yeah.
would be shocked at how old that song is.
Yeah.
And today, like in my life right now, since it dropped, I have had it on repeat nonstop because it is helping me get through a rough patch in my life
Yeah.
because of how
Yeah.
raw and authentic that we was being on the record.
Yeah.
Losing myself ain't part of the plan. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I
Oh, you
look.
good.
I
You just
caught
passionate.
the
You just
verse coach.
passionate
You
about
feel me?
it. Yeah. And so I'll let y'all introduce the single. King Size, you can introduce the single.
All right, man. So this is Journal 83, the remix. You know what I'm saying? It is out on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all the major platforms. You can go ahead and stream that. And if you want something personal to you, put that motherfucker on repeat.
Cool, cool. All right, let's get to it.
Page 2 that I write, I close a chapter, open the new. This morning a sense of peace, I'm after. This is me, realizing what did and didn't matter. Chasing things off my path, forgetting what I was after. See, I can chase the money, but I can't get the time back. Not using my gift, obsessed about what I lack. They call it confidence, but I was more bravado. Top of my lungs, with some heart in my tongue. I'm ready for what's to come. My mind miles ahead to what it gotta get done. So really, I gotta say, ain't no getting long-winded, I gotta run and focus and breathe, I gotta live. There's so much more that I gotta give.
Visions vivid, colors vibrant, wrote verses on lines you can't even read between. Grass is greener when the farmer plants the seeds. I stayed down, same tree just got some different leaves. How can that child stay grounded when fathers just...
Going back to the song, what I got from it when I heard the song, it's kind of like King Size, in a moment where you resetting your life. It's like a journal, and you trying to change things in your life. And what were some things to help you reset? Certain events and certain things in your life.
For me, I always like go through these major moments of like deep introspection. I'm one of those people who I feel like a lot of people say like hustle, hustle, hustle. I also say work hard, too. But I also say, make sure you have time to sit back and meditate and
Yeah.
breathe. Like stillness and thought is real, real, real important. And so at that time, a lot was going on where I didn't. So it was just like one time where I just had like four walls and that, that's where I wrote. But in terms of like resetting, I started to like think about like everything that, led up to that point. And I was like, okay, in order to, be one of those artists that, you want to be, not insecure, not, so worried about all these different things. The one thing you want to do is make sure your music, is a reflection of you as an artist. You want to make sure that like the brand is you,
Yeah.
basically. And it's a representation of at least like your thoughts and ideas, because when people think about brands and artists, they think of you, So
Yeah.
like in terms of like resetting, it was fundamental to me to basically like do that. Was say like strip everything back and
Yeah.
basically say like what kind of person do you want to be first and foremost?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and then
Yeah. And
everything from there is just like
yeah. And
figuring.
often, yeah, like you said, life in general, people have their opinions on how you should be, what direction you should go. But like you said, it's a point in your life where you're like, wait a minute, this is my artistry. This is what I do. This is the independent direction I want to go with my music. And sometimes, like you say, you have to sit back and meditate and think about, be aware of your next move, and that's very important. And what's some things that help you reset things in life? Kind of thinking back on the song. Uh, what were some things that help you reset things in life?
So, like an epiphany that I like just recently came through as I've reached this current rough patch I'm in spiritually.
Yeah,
It is like the music a lot of times is us channeling like our subconscious, right?
yeah,
And it's crazy because sometimes we write songs that we're going to need
yeah,
without realizing it at that time, but it's because our body is feeling ourselves kind of declining, right?
yeah, yeah.
So then what we're compelled to write is like, oh dang, losing myself ain't part of the plan. Cause my
Hmm.
convictions are that I may not have felt lost in that moment, right?
Yeah,
When that was going on. But I wrote that and then it's like, dang, I needed that.
yeah,
I really needed that, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like slowing down and sometimes really reading back what you're writing
yeah,
and really listening to the songs that you're creating,
Yeah.
yeah,
before they're released and be like,
yeah,
breaking it down like from a consumer standpoint, like, hey, why did I
yeah,
write this, bro? Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
what do I need to learn from this? And sometimes you got to journal on it, like, hey,
True.
how am I really feeling? Because I might be suppressing something,
Yeah,
And a
yeah,
lot of times, as we get caught up in the hustle and bustle in life, we do get distracted, especially as
yeah,
we subscribe to the mindset of mental toughness,
yeah.
especially as men, right? It's like, hey,
Oh
you got to
yeah,
keep going. You
yeah,
can't give up. You got a family to feed. You got bills to pay. If you fall, you a punk. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Keep
yeah,
going.
yeah,
You
yeah,
trying to motivate yourself, and you're really not doing yourself no justice for real. You're not
yeah,
stopping to get no water because it make you feel tough.
yeah, yeah.
Like
And
you
like
know,
and our music can be our own therapy, like you said.
yeah.
You can listen back to songs you created 5 years ago, and it might be speaking to you right now in the present.
100%. And so
Yeah,
meditating on my songs sometimes it's a practice I picked up from this brand course that I invested in, right? It's called the
yeah,
Artist Influencer Workshop. They teach you about your archetype and identifying your whole profile, colors, all that, right?
yeah,
So the one of the exercises that they have you do to help determine that is you make a playlist of the songs that you feel like best represent you as an artist. And
yeah,
then you meditate on them. And for my stoners out there, they say do one meditation sober and then do another one under the influence of something, right? Maybe a little bit buzz, maybe high, and see if what comes to you is different. And you
yeah,
have you a journal or a notebook ready so that you can jot down whatever things came to you during that meditative session, right? And so beyond the influencer workshop, I started just doing that as
yeah,
something to help me just like slow down,
yeah,
reset, and connect with my music. Because the
yeah,
better I'm connected with my music, the better I'm connected with myself. And not only that, it helps me market it better to my target audience because I know exactly who I need to be reaching with these songs.
yeah, yeah. And like you said, especially us as black men, mental health is important. Because they think, us as black men, we should be tough all the time. But we have some points where we have depression. We have a lot on our shoulders, and so yeah. And going back to the song as well, where can people download the song? What platforms?
So in terms of like listening to the song, you can stream it on like Spotify, Apple Music,
Cool.
uh, all major platforms really.
Okay. Cool. Cool. And also another question going with streaming. How do you all feel about streaming services? As far as DSPs, these distribution. You feel like it was better back then or now, as far as streaming is concerned?
I don't feel like it's better. I feel like it's different.
Yeah.
And so what I explain is like the artists back then, right? The deals were different. So the labels knew, okay, we could take a certain cut of, the physical CDs we sell.
Yeah.
And then, artists' earning potential could be good. With the new ways that artists make money, labels say we want to be a partner to you. And
Yeah.
so that's good. But being a partner, both partners have obligations to each other. And then how streaming comes into play is, like you don't have the same quote unquote scale in terms of like pay, but what you
Yeah.
do have is data. You
Yeah.
know who's listening. You get an idea of where like your audience is from. And so I think like, yes, it's important for the artist to get paid in this era, but I think that if we focus a lot on exactly who and where we can connect to the people, who are our fans, the people who really want to listen to what we have to offer. If we
Yeah.
focus more on that, I feel like
Yeah.
that's more worthwhile in this era than, like how many streams you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Yeah. And also you, Wesley, how you feel about the streaming services and DSPs these days? Do you feel it's a advantage or a disadvantage these days?
I think it is a substantial advantage.
Okay.
Without the streaming services and the DSPs being what they are, artists would not be able to enter this at all. It wouldn't even be an attainable dream. When you
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
about how music was in the 90s, you know how
Yeah.
much capital that you had to have to make
Yeah.
CDs?
And you
You
had to
know what I'm
travel.
saying?
You had to
Like,
travel to give the
Just
CDs and everything. Yeah.
yeah, you you
Yeah.
you had to make them, and there wasn't buy now, pay later.
remember
Yeah.
There
breaking
wasn't a
news?
lot of black people
Oh
that
yeah.
had good credit that were
Yeah.
able to leverage a credit card or could even get one for that matter, right?
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
then you know what else you had to do? You had to figure out how to get your CDs in stores.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
had to pay somebody to engineer it because you could not have your own studio. You had to go to one. You
Uh,
know, beats were not as easy to get access to back
Correct.
then.
yeah.
Sample clearance wasn't the same back. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we wouldn't even be on this call right now
Yeah.
as
Right.
artists if the DSPs and streaming platforms weren't what they are today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I love it.
Mm.
I think the only downfall of the DSPs is the mentality of the independent artists thinking that this should be their sole way to eat. And so
Correct.
they start stirring up all of these negative narratives and different things like that, not realizing you're like, yo, these people are literally giving you an easy to access, immediate inlet to
Mm.
however many hundreds of millions of
Man.
subscribers they have to their platform.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
you to promote your music and for
Yeah.
you to funnel that audience into whatever it is that you got going on that's lucrative,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So live
Yes.
shows,
Yeah.
merchandise,
Yep.
incentivizing purchases, whatever you got going on that you can flip that, right?
And me and you
Even
saying the
setting
same
up
thing.
tours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brent Fires and his manager used the data from Spotify to
Mhm.
determine what cities would make sense for them to tour in, and that's
Mhm.
how he started to have success as an independent artist.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Russell used Spotify and other data on social media platforms to help him determine what cities and what venue sizes that he should get because it would give him the most bang for his buck because he was
Mhm.
sure he could sell out this
Mm-hmm.
many tickets based
Mm-hmm.
on the data.
Yeah. And if I could answer this question as well, I think there's pros and cons to it. Far as especially financially, people are not getting paid as much on these streaming. It depends on how much percentage you have on a song or whatever. Or it depends on what DSP you associate with. But the pro is, that you can reach people, especially as it's an advantage to the independent artists.
Mhm.
They might not have all the resources or the financial funds to, have this big backing. But with DSPs like DistroKid and CD Baby and stuff like that, you're able to push your music to the world. Just a click of a button or your credit card or whatever. And so, yeah, that's how I feel about it. And as we end in this conversation, where do you see yourself in the future as far as your music, in the near future?
Yeah. First off, I can see myself continuing to push this song right here. Yeah,
Cool.
and then onwards, I have a steady stream of stuff that I can pretty much put out. And what you'll kind of like start to see from Scythe is you see a mix of a lot of like interesting like experimental records, some socio-political, some personal to me, and then others just inherently like artistically experimental. So you'll start to see like a mix of just like different songs
Cool.
compared to like what I've dropped.
Cool. Cool.
Mhm.
And you, Wesley, where do you see yourself in the near future as far as your artistry and your music?
Well, same thing, pushing Journal 83 to remix for sure, making more
Got you.
content for
For
that.
sure.
But, got a shameless plug, right?
Cool.
But I think I'm on pace to be a household name.
Great.
I want to be a legendary artist in the space. I want to do things that are revolutionary. I want to put other artists in position to be able to make a lot of money in the game. I am not a hobby rapper.
Yeah.
I am a rapper that looks to be able to replace my corporate income with this music and then some.
Cool.
And I also want to impact the world with my voice and the message that I have, right? Sharing those perspectives, encouraging people to be more like introspective and comfortable being more introspective, facing their traumas head on, being more comfortable sitting inside of their mind because the mind can be such a scary place to sit in, asking yourself tough questions. And I know it's not cool to listen to lectures all the time. So I can't
Mhm.
go and lecture them. I know that, what I mean, it's not always digestible. But one thing I do know is I got a studio in here that I've invested in. So my cost to create music is very low. And I know that my cost to distribute music is low as well because of that other question we just answered about the DSPs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that I'm able to reach hundreds of millions of people as long as I market my brand properly. And so I challenge myself to continue to develop and implement what I've learned to reach as many people as I can with this music.
Great, great, and it's great talking to you both. Great conversation. Also, learn a lot from you all. Very inspired from y'all conversation. And where can we get in contact? Social media. How can we reach you all?
Yeah, so if you want to reach me directly, you can reach me at contact@kingscythe.com.
Cool,
And for any bookings, any inquiries, all of that fun stuff. In terms of social media, you can find me at like King Scythe on Instagram and Twitter, K1NG, you know the rest.
great, great, cool. And Wesley, where can we contact you as well?
Wes Lee The Wordsmith, just like you see it on the screen, anywhere,
Cool,
Google,
cool,
wherever you want to find it, right? Instagram, TikTok, et cetera, et cetera. And then, my production company that we're building, Bonsai Pros, that is BonzeyePros on Instagram, or our website, bonsaipros.com.
cool.
You can stay updated on all things Wesley the Wordsmith and the rest of the artists in the collective through those channels.
Okay, great, and good having you all up here. And I hope y'all have a blessed one. All right, all right. Peace.
Thank you for having us, brother.